The episode opens up with Rochelle waking up early in the morning and making sure that both her mother and baby brother are ready for the day. Before she leaves her home, she checks her piggy bank and finds that she is still $60 short of meeting her goal of $1,000. Knowing that she needs the money to play in the next softball tournament, Rochelle heads out. Once her mother drops her off at the snack shop where she works part-time, Rochelle reminds her that the game starts at 1. The day quickly goes by with Rochelle tending to customers and collecting tips along the way. Soon, her coach calls out to her and tells her that it is time for them to play. Excited, she tells the coach that she is waiting for the shop's owner, Cheryl, to arrive before she can leave. Not long after that, Cheryl arrives as Rochelle begins counting the tips she has collected. To her surprise, she finds that she has managed to collect $60 and can play in the state championships. Once Cheryl takes over, Rochelle prepares for her game. She then changes into her gear and stands behind the batter while directing her teammates. When a particularly tall batter comes into play, she tells her team to scatter in the field to make sure that they can catch the ball. As soon as the batter strikes the ball, Rochelle calls out to her teammate, Lori, and tells her to catch. However, knowing that Lori will not be able to catch it, another teammate named Ray catches the ball and throws it toward Rochelle. Before the batter can complete the home run, Rochelle smashes the ball on the plate and the umpire calls an out, leading the Pickles to win the game and qualify for the state championships. After the game, the coach gathers the Pickles around and tells them to prepare themselves for the next game. This is when Rochelle notices that her cleats are breaking apart. Dreading having to buy another pair, she mentally prepares herself to talk to her mother. On the other hand, the coach tells all of the parents that he needs to talk to them. Seeing her mother busy live streaming, Rochelle realizes that she needs to see what the coach wants herself. The coach tells the parents that since their kids are going to be traveling a lot more, the price has gone up to $1,600. As her anxiety begins to grow, Rochelle begins to feel like everything around her is falling apart. Soon, it is time for everyone to head back home. In the car, Rochelle tries to bring up the price hike to her mother, but before she can do that, her mother hands her a gift box. To her surprise, it turns out to be a pair of new limited edition cleats. At first, she is excited to see them, but begins to feel anxious again once she realizes that they will now have to cut corners to make ends meet. However, her mother assures her that they have got this, just like they always have. The next morning in school, she mentions the cleats to Lori, who already knows about them since Rochelle's mother has posted the video online. Despite her complaints, Lori does not see why Rochelle is not more excited about them, claiming that she will now have a new pair of cleats for the new season of softball games. However, Rochelle's heart begins to sink, knowing that there might not be another season for her if she does not come up with another $600. As she starts to spiral again, she is saved by her friend Tom, who asks her if he can copy her homework. At first, she refuses, claiming that she is not a cheater, but when he offers her $50 for it, she agrees. Before she can tell him not to spread the word, he texts the entire student body telling them about her new venture. They begin texting her, asking if she can help them with their assignments in exchange for money. She weighs the pros and cons, but ultimately ends up deciding that this is the only way for her to collect the money. As days go by, Rochelle manages to gather $400. Although the added work adds to her stress, Rochelle remains committed. One day, Tom comes up to her and asks her if she will help him cheat during Mr. Brown's quiz. However, Rochelle is unsure, claiming it is an entirely different ballgame. Desperate, Tom offers to pay her $100 in exchange for her help. Despite her anxiety, Rochelle agrees to help him out. On the day of the quiz, Rochelle tells him to sit right behind her, but when they get to class, they find that Ray is already sitting in between them. Once the quiz begins, Rochelle contemplates sharing her answers with Tom, Eventually, she writes them down on a piece of paper, and while Mr. Brown is looking the other way, she begs Ray to pass it on to Tom. When Ray refuses to do it, Rochelle begs her, claiming that she really needs it. When Ray is about to read the paper, Mr. Brown appears out of nowhere and snatches it away. Later that day, Rochelle's mother receives a phone call from Mr. Brown about her cheating. When her mother asks her if she cheated, Rochelle lies, claiming that she was caught in between and had nothing to do with it. Her mother then reveals that she quit her job, making Rochelle angry. As she starts to argue, her mother reminds her that she is not the adult in the house. Tearfully, Rochelle returns to her room where she locks herself in, trying to come up with the remaining $200. This is when she notices her new cleats and realizes that she can sell them. She posts the ad online and immediately receives a call from an anonymous number who asks her if she can deliver the cleats before Saturday. Even though she has an important game right after, Rochelle agrees. On the day of the championships, Rochelle sneaks out of the house with her brand new cleats and takes the cab to a sketchy area of the town. On her way there, she realizes that she has forgotten her phone at home. Once she gets out of the cab, she notices a man dressed in a chicken costume. She tells him that she is here to meet a boy called Bad Boy, and the chicken leads her inside the house. There, she meets with a group of kids who take the cleats from her and tell her that she should hand the keys to the snack shop to them, and once they steal the money, they will hand her the remaining $200. Once again, Rochelle's anxiety begins to grow as she realizes that she has made the wrong decision. Somehow, she manages to distract them and grabs the cleats before rushing out of the house. With the kids following after her, Rochelle puts on her new cleats and begins running away from them. However, she is not fast enough and she slips off a cliff, injuring her food in the process. With no other choice left, Rochelle calls her mother, who does not pick up, and the world begins to close around her when one of the boys holds up the keys they have managed to steal from her uniform. This episode opens up in a grocery store where Vanessa, Rochelle's mother, is working. Despite the dead atmosphere inside the store, Vanessa shows up with a box of donuts and high energy. Ready to take on the day, she announces that today is Rochelle's big game. Just then, her boss interrupts her and tells her that she needs to fill in for her coworker who has just quit. At first, she agrees, but when she receives a call from her son, Zane's daycare, she tells her boss that she needs to be there for her children first. However, he refuses to cater to her, claiming that if she leaves, he is going to fire her. Vanessa then heads to the daycare where she is told that they can no longer keep Zane since he has been biting other children. Determined to let this get her down, Vanessa does a live stream where she tells her followers about the day she is having. With their encouragement and support, she puts on a brave face and heads to Rochelle's softball game with her new cleats. After the game, while other parents are busy meeting with the coach, she tries to call back into work and begs her boss to give her another chance, but he remains stubborn and refuses to take her back. When Vanessa hears Rochelle coming back from the game, she pastes a smile on her face and celebrates her daughter's win. Over the next few days, Vanessa spends her days applying for jobs, while driving people around in her car at night to earn extra money. She tells her followers that she wants her daughter to have a better life than she did. She brags about Rochelle to all of her customers, claiming that her daughter is the best. Things soon begin to look up when she gets a new job at a gym with an inbuilt daycare. Knowing that she has two of the most amazing children, she looks forward to starting over. This is why when she receives a phone call from Mr. Brown about Rochelle cheating, she is sure that it is a mistake since she did not raise cheaters. She then confronts Rochelle about it, who claims that she was caught in the middle and had nothing to do with cheating. Convinced, she heads to Rochelle's school where she talks to Mr. Brown and manages to make him confess that he has made a mistake. As she is about to leave, she encounters other parents who ask Vanessa where Rochelle is. When she tells them that she is at home studying, they begin to look down on her, claiming that she should not have let her child home alone. Feeling scrutinized, Vanessa quickly rushes to her car where she realizes that Rochelle has lied to her. The next morning, Vanessa angrily makes breakfast for Rochelle and tries to confront her about it, but Rochelle brushes it off and goes back to her room, leaving her cell phone behind. She tries her best not to snoop through her daughter's cell phone, but when a message comes through from Tom thanking her for cheating, she decides to go through it, concluding that he is the one corrupting her daughter and that she needs to confront him about it. As she arrives at Tom's house, she tells him to get into her car. Then she asks him if he forced Rochelle to cheat. To her horror, he ends up exposing that her daughter has been running a cheating empire under multiple fake accounts. After going through Rochelle's phone, she discovers that she is meeting with a high schooler. Vanessa then turns to her followers for help and asks them to locate Bad Boy 2023. They are quick to come up with leads and give Vanessa a name and a location. Not long after that, Vanessa arrives at the house where the party is in full swing. She pushes her way inside and looks for Rochelle everywhere. Eventually, she makes her way to the second floor, but finds the bedrooms empty as well. Trying not to lose hope, she asks two girls if they have seen a girl slightly younger than them. When they ask Vanessa how old she is, she realizes that it is her birthday, and she has just turned 30. When one of the girls throws up, Vanessa puts on her mom suit and turns to help her. As she sits on the floor with her, she claims that she thought she had done one thing right in her life with Rochelle, who had been her star child, but has now turned to cheating to make money, claiming that she did not want Rochelle to turn out like her. However, the girls claim that since Vanessa is at the party looking for her daughter, she is a good mother since their parents don't even care where they are. As she begins to feel better about herself, one of the girls claims that she remembers seeing Rochelle. Hearing this, Vanessa lets out a breath of relief, claiming that Rochelle is probably on her way back to the championship game. But when the girl tells her that she left the party with a boy, a gear switches in her mind and she becomes driven to try and locate her daughter again. With her mom instincts on high alert, Vanessa tries to make her way out of the crowded house. Getting pulled in multiple directions, she decides that enough is enough and turns the music off. She tells them that the party is over and that they need to head home before she calls their parents. But when her cell phone begins to ring, they snatch it out of her hands and begin to play ball with it. Vanessa tries to catch her phone, knowing that Rochelle might be trying to call her. When she has enough of running back and forth, she pushes one of the boys back and grabs her phone from his hands. She answers the call, and as expected, it is Rochelle calling her from a payphone. Hearing her daughter cry, Vanessa drops everything and rushes to find her baby. She finds Rochelle sitting beside a payphone, waiting for her. As soon as they spot each other, Rochelle rushes towards her and hugs her tightly as her anxiety begins to settle down, and the world around them goes back to normal as well. Despite being worried, Vanessa tells Rochelle that they need to talk. An extremely imaginative 10-year-old Ira is stuck watching his sister's softball game. He immediately gets bored and uses his imagination to liven things up by looking through his cardboard telescope. After the game, Ira is excited to spend time and play video games with her sister when the team's pitcher, Yuen, suddenly professes his love for Taylor. While Taylor hangs out with Yuen, Ira keeps himself distracted when he runs into the Bleacher Creatures, a group of older teens and the school's social outcasts, Brian, Rinna, and Kevin. They were impressed when Ira didn't tattle on them when Professor Brown asked him if he saw who vandalized his car. When Taylor spends most of her time with Ewan nowadays, Ira decides to befriend the Bleacher Creatures, who rope him into one of their pranks, taking advantage of his innocence. The Bleacher Creatures once persuaded Ira to pull off a heist at the concession stand. While Ira distracts Cheryl, the concessionaire, Brian, and the others sneak out back to steal a box of candies. Although he realizes they are no good, Ira convinces himself and uses his imagination to make them seem like heroes. Wanting to fit in, Ira brushes it off and starts hanging out with them. Brian and the others invite Ira to a teen party on the night of the championship. Ira vents his frustration when his sister decides to spend more time with her boyfriend Yuen than with him. Ira starts to feel guilty over what he did as his imagination takes over, and he hears the candy call him a thief. Uneasy, Ira looks for Brian and the others, who he finds in the garage with Rochelle, trying to get her keys to the concession stand. While they were distracted, Rochelle escaped, and Kevin chased after her. Brian starts to panic, worried Rochelle will rat them out, so he breaks his phone when he throws it against the door. Ira tries to calm him down, but Brian vents his frustration at him and breaks his cardboard telescope, which scares Ira into running away. Before the championship game, Ira tries to tell his sister what happened, but she lashes out at him after her relationship with Yuen breaks down. Ira goes to the concession stand to make things right and writes an apology letter when Brian and the others call to him from the bleachers. Brian apologizes for taking it out on him. He hands him the cardboard telescope that he fixed, hoping to repair their friendship. A week just before the championship, when Pickles' pitcher, Yuen, is overconfident in his pitches. He is used to cleaning out batters one after another, but when one lucky hit gets past him, Taylor comes in for the save and catches it. Apart from the arrogant and self-centered personality, an imaginary papercraft diorama of himself represents his heart, which he calls Little Yuen, showing his rather sensitive side. He makes a humiliating video of Lori missing the ball to cover his insecurities. Rochelle stands up to him and accuses him of picking on Lori because he likes her. When the others seem convinced, Yuen gets defensive and blurts out that he likes Taylor instead. Worried that it's already out there, Yuen commits to it and asks her out, to which she accepts. That night, Yuen and Taylor go out for a movie date, but when he tries to impress her, Taylor tells him to be himself. In the movies, Taylor makes the first move, but once they are able to break the holding hands barrier, they become inseparable. One time, Taylor asks Yuen to train her to become a catcher. Taylor gets mad at him when Yuen is goofing around and throws an easy ball, worried that she'll get hurt. When he finally throws it for real, Taylor catches it, proving to herself that she may just be cut out to become a catcher. After feeling it out, Yuen opens up to Taylor and shows her his Little Yuen, to which she responds by showing her Little Taylor. Since then, they have become more in love, spending every waking moment together. Eventually, Little Yuen's place becomes lively after Little Taylor moves in with him. Suddenly, Yuen becomes insecure when he sees Taylor talking to Tom. He tries to join the conversation, but Taylor gets furious when he always makes it about a joke. Their argument eventually affected their relationship, and they stopped talking to each other. Even the team noticed the intense, awkward atmosphere in the dugout on the night of the championship. Trying to get control of the situation, Yuen told the team how Taylor wanted to take the catcher position from Rochelle, which only irked Taylor even more. When Rochelle was running late, Taylor stepped up and volunteered to be the catcher. Yuen refuses to follow Taylor on the field and gives up a few hits. Everyone could feel the tension coming from the pitcher and his catcher. Yuen decides to throw random balls at her to prove he's in control. Worried that he's throwing the game, Taylor asks their coach for a pitcher change. Yuen decides to throw a pitch, even though Taylor isn't ready for it, and she drops the ball so they give up a run. Tired of it all, Taylor claims she is done with the game and breaks up with him, after which she walks out of the field. Yuen was so shocked that he dropped the ball while the game was still ongoing. A year before the championship, when Kai and his father moved to Peaks Valley to live with her grandmother. While checking the neighborhood, she finds a local softball team practicing and decides to join. Her father, James, was surprised by her decision to quit baseball and play softball. He worries she'd be giving up on all her talent when he'd hoped she could have played college baseball. Still, he decides to respect and support her decision. At first, Kai struggled to fit in, worried that her teammates would blame her for her mistakes, but surprisingly, they were supportive, which was new to her. Eventually, she makes excellent plays thanks to her supportive team. Her state of mind is represented by her floating in midair. Still, whenever she makes a mistake, and her father criticizes her, she slowly sinks to the ground and starts to doubt herself. After all their hard work, her team finally made a breakthrough, winning a spot in the championship. After the game, James tells Kai that the other parents want his help coaching the team. Although it wasn't part of their plans, James was excited, but Kai started worrying. Kai gets caught cheating in class when Rochelle asks her to pass a piece of paper to Tom. To take her mind off things, she helps Lori train, especially with the championship around the corner. Pressured to become better, Kai practiced until she could hit the ball. She then helps Lori by pitching some balls to her, but Lori hits her with the ball after hitting it, which knocks her out. The coach arrives and worries that she might have hurt herself. When she discovers that she sprained her ankle, she keeps quiet about it. Later, her father scolds her at home after learning that she got caught cheating. Kai explained that she was helping a teammate, but James worried that this would make her lose her chance at going professional. At the championship game, everything turns south when Taylor walks out. Her quick thinking allowed Kai to hold down the opponent with a miracle play. Just when they thought they had a chance, Lori is next at bat. When they felt they had no hope, Lori got hit by a ball and got on base. Next up is Kai, who slowly sinks to the ground, feeling the pressure from his father, having missed 2 chances already. After seeing her team cheer for her, Kai makes one wild swing and hits the ball to the outfield. The episode begins with Coach Dan taking pride in his team and being a good role model for Lori. He arrives early before a game to care for the field, envisioning a glass dome for the team that uplifts their spirits once they step inside. After winning their last match, the team finally made it to the championship, to which he gave them a pep talk about how, win or lose, they would always be family. Later, the parents ambush and inform him that they are replacing him with James as the team's new coach, making the next match his last. Dan tries to keep his emotions in check, especially when struggling to get over his divorce. Once, Dan had to drive Kai home after Lori knocked her out with a ball. When James starts talking about lineup ideas and how he couldn't figure out where to put Lori, Dan disappears, forgetting about Lori. He quickly drives back, but Lori already walked home. On the night of the championship, Dan overhears the parents talking about how they didn't have any hopes for tonight's match, and is looking forward to next year when James takes over. When Lori is at bat, Coach Dan starts to get anxious, which is reflected by his inflating and deflating his body as a means of self-control. When Lori gets on base, Kai is up next to her, and she hits the ball to the outfield. Lori makes her very first return home. When Kai was running back home, the catcher recovered the ball, and they decided to play 3 to home. Kai is overwhelmed when Coach Dan and her father have conflicting instructions on what she should do, with the former asking to return to third base, while the latter insists on pushing to go home. Kai decides to follow his father and pushes for a slide, but the umpire calls a decision and tells her she's out. James notices that the catcher doesn't have the ball and oversteps, calling out Frank, the umpire, for his wrong call. The parents take James's side and start throwing hurtful words at Frank, but when he stands up to his decision, the crowd turns their attention to Coach Dan. Frank gets so frustrated when Dan inadvertently touches him that he kicks him out of the field. Coach Dan can't withstand it any longer and goes on a tantrum, turning into a giant blimp. Meanwhile, Ira thought he could believe Brian's words when Rinna suddenly came out of the concession stand, stealing the shop's cash box. Ira draws the line and runs with the cash box, realizing that stealing is wrong. They chase after him and even trap him in the chicken head mascot. Ira screams for help, which Taylor hears and runs to his rescue. James searches for Kai and finds her under the field, feeling disappointed. Kai worries that no matter what she does, it is never enough. James feels terrible for pushing her to the brink of doubting herself, so he apologizes to her and claims that she is more than enough. The team tries to pull Dan back to the ground with the rope tangled around him. Laurie brazenly climbs up and reminds his father that it is only a game. Frank saves Zane when he is choking on some candy, making Vanessa, Rochelle's mom, flirt with him. After everything is restored, Dan apologizes to Frank for his outburst, and the game continues into extra innings with Laurie as their manager. Ira made up with Taylor, and she and Yuen agreed to remain friends. Although the outcome was not revealed, the team happily ate at a pizzeria together. As they are walking home, Laurie asks her father if he can stay with him, to which he agrees and tells him that she is thinking of quitting softball. Thank you for watching. Check out these other videos and subscribe and tap the bell to be notified about our latest videos. See you next time.